Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Shattuck Bell. I'm a senior at Texas Tech University, enrolled in the Integrative Studies 4350 capstone course, and this is the oral presentation of my senior thesis project, which I did over the effects of immigration on Texas border communities and then the resulting legal and economic implications that go along with immigration. Immigration itself has been a topic at the forefront of modern media and the political scene. It affects the nation as a whole, and I wanted to focus a little more on how it affects those areas where immigrants are coming into the United States, more specifically from Mexico and Central America into Texas. I wanted to see if there was an actual a specific effect it was having on areas that are at those ports of entry. The first thing I wanted to talk about was the economic implications, and I wanted to identify the immigrants. The patterns of immigration across the southern border of the United States have been undergoing a change, and studies have been done to identify who these immigrants are, as well as what jobs they're drawn to upon arriving in the U.S. Kristen Briotti stated that beginning in the mid to late 1970s, research began to show that individuals were migrating accompanied by family members. Up until this point, it had only been documented that people were migrating on their own. So now we started to see household immigration into the United States. Briotti stated that the immigration process the modern immigration process often includes a transitional phase whereby one household member immigrates into the United States while other household members retain their residence in Mexico. She stated that 24 out of 56 immigration cases studied showed that this was the case, this transitional phase of immigration. So this is important because people are coming over and they may send back money to Mexico to support a family for a while, but the intention is to eventually bring the rest of their family over to the United States. Texas sees Mexico as the origin of the most of their immigrants. Pierce and Gunther stated that Mexican immigrants are exceptional for their low skill levels and the numbers in which they're available. They are much less likely to speak English or have high school degrees. They are also less likely to be citizens. And this was once the data was adjusted for the years since they immigrated to the United States. Of the immigrants responding to a census questionnaire, Mexicans constituted a clear majority, even though some fraction of illegal immigrants probably avoided taking the census. The immigrants have been identified as coming from Mexico and Central America, as settling along Texas border communities, and the driving factor for their immigration was violence or poverty in their home nation. One of the issues that we look at as far as an economic implication from immigration is workforce competition for natives, and the natives being U.S. citizens already settled and established in the United States. According to Pierce and Gunther, they stated that Hispanics and blacks are represented higher in particular occupations that are sought by illegal immigrants. Mexican immigrants made up 20.4% of all Texas farm workers in 1980, and that was compared to an African American portion of that same labor force that only made up 4.8%. So we're seeing competition between immigrants and more so illegal immigrants with natives who would be working those same agricultural jobs. In researching what jobs the immigrants sought in coming to the U.S., agriculture was at the top of the list, hands down, especially in South Texas along the Rio Grande Valley border. Agriculture such as cotton farming, sugarcane, corn, those are all major crops grown there, and the cheap labor that the cheap wages that Mexican immigrants are willing to work for has displaced natives from some of those jobs. There were also studies done to suggest that immigrant workers do not have an effect on the Texas, or don't have a profound effect on the Texas economy due to their low representation in population. They stated that several industries rely heavily on occupation with Mexican immigrants. Slightly over half of the workers in textile manufacturing, services to buildings, and services to households and hotels are members of occupations that are sensitive to illegal immigration, meaning that these are positions that illegal immigrants often seek. When we look at public policy implications, the government has a duty to protect its citizens. And that's not just by means of national security and protecting from terrorism, but they're also obligated to protect their citizens' well-being, their daily life, jobs, the ability to earn money at a decent wage. In research done by Griswold, he makes the assertion that immigration does not pose a long-term burden to U.S. taxpayers as far as social programs go, such as welfare. An argument that's made by those that oppose immigration is that the immigrants will come to the U.S. and then rely on welfare systems and social programs to take care of them. Griswold wrote that immigrants come to the United States to build a better life through work, not welfare, just as they have throughout American history. It's no different today. We can see evidence of this in their labor force participation, as well as their gravitation towards states that offer the best prospects for employment, not welfare. One of the more publicly known policy effects or policy that was affected by illegal immigration was during the Obama presidential administration, the DREAM Act. The DREAM Act was a piece of legislation that targeted two groups of illegal immigrants: those who entered the country illegally, and then those who entered the country under legal measure and then overstayed their visas. To sum up the DREAM Act, it took children who had been brought into the United States illegally and then attempted to naturalize those citizens. And this was sought or viewed by those that opposed it as a dereliction of duty by the president under what the Constitution says is a take care clause. Delahunty and Yu wrote that they argue that the Constitution's take care clause imposes on the president a duty to enforce all constitutionally valid acts of Congress in all situations and cases. Basically, in layman's terms, what they were saying was, if we are to naturalize a large number of illegal immigrants, how is that going to affect job availability and the daily lives of natives, the U.S. citizens who are already here? When looking at a issue such as illegal immigration, it's definitely considered a complex problem, and an interdisciplinary approach is a very good method to use in analyzing this problem. If we looked at it only from an economic point of view, or we only looked at it from public policy or a socioeconomic standpoint, then we won't understand the entire reason or the entire problem itself. By looking at it from various disciplines, in this case the economy and then public policy and political setting, we can start to understand more of the big picture, get a more holistic view, and then we can begin to synthesize some of the reasons this is happening. I wanted to kind of close out with a statement made by Cooten, who said, "As a nation of immigrants in which nativism flourishes, the United States has long had a complex relationship with the migrants who enter its territory. Immigration, be it legal and illegal, affect the country as a whole. It affects border communities. It affects the areas within the United States. But from this research, it seems to affect the border communities more. You're seeing more competition at the border. You're seeing issues of criticism towards Border Patrol and how they may be racially profiling people who they suspect may be in the country illegally, but in actuality are here legally. If we examine this issue from multiple perspectives, it will yield a more comprehensive understanding of how immigration is affecting our way of life in the United States. If we continue to evaluate immigration from various disciplines, it can provide the knowledge needed to create solutions that will benefit both the natives and the immigrants. They are coming here to escape something that they feel is a bad situation. And I believe if it's truly warranted, then they should be able to find a home here in the United States, and that could benefit both natives, U.S. citizens, and the immigrants coming. Thank you.